Detroit is now the largest U.S. city to file for bankruptcy.
Detroit cannot manage itself. It can't meet its payroll.
We're at the end of the road. We can't borrow any more money.
What happened? Detroit was once prosperous. Now it's such a wreck that...
For $1,500, you could buy this house.
Right.
For years, politicians promised they would fix Detroit.
Detroit shall again become the great city that is its destiny.
But instead...
They turned City Hall into a den of bribes and kickbacks, making themselves rich.
Is there hope for places like Detroit?
We are going to turn around the city of Detroit.
This is the Motor City. And this is what we do.
What's up with Detroit? And can this happen to your town? That's our show tonight.
And now, John Stossel.
Detroit was once the richest city in America. I was 3 years old then. That was in 1950. Now it's the biggest U.S. city ever to declare bankruptcy. So what happened? Our guests tonight have some clues. First, Fox News reporter Charlie LaDuff works in Detroit and just wrote Detroit, an American autopsy. Charlie, an autopsy, one examines a dead body and tries to find out what killed him. Detroit isn't dead exactly with bankruptcy, but what killed Detroit?
What killed Detroit? Racial conflict killed Detroit. Sloth killed Detroit. Corruption killed Detroit. Seems like that's what's become the American way, because Detroit's not alone. Yeah, what's Baltimore going to do? What's Atlanta going to do? What is L.A. going to do, for God's sakes? So,
but Detroit is in worse shape. Worse politicians, more unions, the automakers collapsing. That's what a lot of people say. It wasn't the politicians' fault. It was just the big three crashed.
It was all of them. You know, we're a one-industry town. We were rich. We thought it would never end. Everybody put their hand in the till, from management to politicians to unions. You could punch in your buddy while he went drinking. We blew it. And I know everybody's watching Detroit, not because you care about us, but you're worried you're going to be like us.
That's true. We want to see, well, maybe bankruptcy is the answer, but this may mean stiffing the people who were promised pensions. They may get 20 cents on the dollar of what they were promised.
I know. I mean, the golden age is over, isn't it? I mean, we just really ruined it. And we're in a new era now. Who even knows what money's worth? What's a promise worth? What's a contract worth? Our pensioners might take a very bad hit. That's just what was left us. Neglect, sloth, and ripping the people off. The people didn't take it. Who took it? Who took it?
You write, Detroit was perpetually on fire. What do you mean?
We have 7,000 arsons a year. Do the math. What is that? 30 a day? And we have a fire department where the alarms don't work inside. There's holes in the boots. The engines leak water. Sometimes the engines show up and can't pump water. That's not the fault of the... Go ahead.
They took out the fire poles, sold the brass.
Sold them, scrapped them. They did. Everything. Gone. Everything now is up for sale.
The city did manage to build a new $60 million building to house fire department officials, and you tried to confront the deputy fire commissioner about that. He wasn't eager to talk.
Deputy Commissioner.
You better get the away from me.
What's that? I'm not sure if he was talking to me, Detroit, or he was talking to you. I didn't hear that exactly. Sir, you're in charge of the maintenance of these firehouses. We're spending $60 million on a new public safety headquarters, and the houses we visited today should be condemned. How do you respond to that?
You're responsible for telling the truth. Why don't you tell the truth?
Let me get that so you can...
In this case, this man was actually fired for doing that.
Yeah, as he should have been. You don't get to slap people around because you're unhappy with what they ask you, especially in your official capacity as the man responsible for making sure those houses are clean and safe and not like some backwater whorehouse in Tijuana with feces bubbling through the floor. I don't know, John. Is it acceptable where you live? Is it acceptable that 911 breaks down and goes dark for 15 hours?
Yeah, in Detroit now, if you call 911, you can't be sure the police will come. You interviewed one single woman living alone, had been robbed and was afraid to go inside her home because the thieves might still be there. She was waiting for the police.
Police, I called them an hour ago and they have still not gotten here.
They got the TV, the game machine, the laptop. 1.5 hours and still no cops. Cops arrive 4 hours later. And they say they came as soon as they were assigned the call.
Now, you say sometimes the whole system goes down, but even when the system isn't down, there just aren't enough cops, or it's badly managed?
All of the above. It's badly managed. We don't have enough squad cars sometimes to carry the cops around. Their cars don't have computers in them. The cars don't have radios in them. They use their cell phones. Are you kidding me? Imagine one of our ladies goes to work, comes home, somebody's broken in. I want the muscle to show up and make sure she's safe so she can get in her house. We can't even do that. So what do? We let all the citizens arm themselves. And now we're all going to be our own police. And you see how that's working out in America.
It may work out better than relying on government.
Well, again, now we got this Trayvon Martin deal, right? So maybe we're thinking it didn't work out better. Maybe we should leave policing to police.
Let's look at a new documentary about Detroit. It shows what parts of the city are like now.
This is 3 bedrooms. The basement down here, I think it was firebombed.
A lot of the antisocial behavior and violence we find is because communities are broken down. People don't interact with one another, they don't support each other in these difficult economic times, and in many cases, they don't see themselves as a community, even though they may live next door to one another.
It's bad to other people because other people didn't grow up over here, but to us, it's just regular, you know what I'm saying? It's regular, it ain't nothing to us.
The documentary was made by Andrew Rodney, who grew up in a suburb of Detroit. You title your film D-Force. Why? What's that mean?
D-Force means to take property from its rightful owner by force. And we titled it that because I can't think of a more accurate word to describe what's happened in the last 50 years in Detroit.
The politicians would say, hey, we have a plan. We can build these cool new buildings with our friends here, and they would use eminent domain to kick people out of their homes and make it worse.
Yes, that happened many times. It happened with the building of I-75. It happened with the Poletown plant, where GM...
The Poletown plant was a neighborhood called Poletown, where lots of people lived.
Yes.
Politicians said, we'll put an auto plant in there.
Mm-hmm. And they kicked out thousands of people to make space for that auto plant.
It was the politicians' vision. So what makes Detroit worse than other cities?
Well, John, Detroit's just the first. It's the first city to experience a lot of the planning that went into a lot of cities. The Federal Home Loan Bank Board was a national program, but it was first in Detroit where they really started to build up neighborhoods around these federal subsidies, which sprawled them out and also racially segregated them.
Detroit has the 3rd highest income tax of any major city, and yet there's no money. How can that be? Where's it go?
I'd love to know where the money went, but better where'd the people go? Listen, when you pay the high income taxes, the only utility tax in the state, the highest car insurance, the highest homeowners insurance, the schools stink, and you get no police. You know what happens to the money and the people paying taxes? They hit 8 Mile Road, and the only people left are people broke paying the highest income taxes, but you know what 10% of a dollar is? 10 cents.
Now, both of you talk about this 8 Mile Road. It's the title of the Eminem movie. You worked at a plant on, what's the significance of 8 Mile Road?
Well, 8 Mile Road's a 8-lane highway, but it might as well be a border between two countries. It's the dividing line between Detroit and the northern suburbs. And things politically, economically,
rich and poor.
Pretty much. And things on both sides of those lines are just night and day different.
And the politicians were going to improve the life of the poor by building housing projects. This was another one of their grand schemes, ones like the Brewster Douglas housing project. What happened?
What happened? Exactly what happens when federal officials try and plan a housing project. It falls to pieces. No time at all.
Thank you, Andrew and Charlie. Next, Detroit's mayor. He took 50 trips, went to nightclubs, rented limos, taxpayers paid for it. What's up with Detroit?
This unethical, illegal lynch mob mentality has to stop.